Hey, welcome to North Idaho Experience. This is a special episode. We've been talking about this for a long time. This is going to be the first episode of the Judicial Watch group, spearheaded by none other than the lovely and talented Eric Boardman, former LEO in this community for a lot of years. So he has an extensive history with the court system here in Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. And there is nothing more important than this, in our opinion, as far as getting information to the public. It all starts in the courts, I think, as far as maintaining a healthy and safe community. So this is going to be some really good information. Make sure you stick around to the very end. We're going to dive in right now.
I'll be honest, it's weird getting ready for this one. I'm a little nervous about it.
You've been putting in the work, dude.
Yeah, it's because I believe in it.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think when we look around our country and you can see some really, really good areas that have started to deteriorate and the quality of life's gone down and the crime rate's gone up and a lot of these things, people don't want to raise their kids there. I think it all starts with keeping an informed voting population.
Yes.
And in doing some of this research, I find it incredibly difficult to find out what judges are even running for reelection next year. I feel like judges' elections and some of these decisions just get added on to other elections, and it's really hard to go out and open source information to educate yourself.
Yeah, I can personally attest at the ballot box on the last few years. I've gone in there, and I've never worked as a cop in this county, so I don't know. And I get up to the ballot box, and there's all these judges on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know anything about any of them. There's no information anywhere about any of them. So what do you do? Okay, well, they're the incumbent. I guess I'll just vote for them. And I don't know.
Yeah, because you look at it and you say, all right, Idaho's pretty safe. We're down, Coeur d'Alene's down.
Things are good.
Yeah, they're down 70% in Part 1 crimes. We've had a significant population increase, so we must be doing something right. So our judicial system must be really, really good. And then as I've given you some details, I consider you to be an informed citizen. You like to know what's going on. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You blew my mind about that one part you told me today, which we will get to.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely blew me away.
Right.
And I think it's going to piss people off that live here when they find this out.
Hey, you guys know us. We're going to be unapologetic about giving you as much factual information as we can so you can make your own decision. Like anywhere else, Idaho's not perfect. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in our judicial system. I think largely some of our decrease in our crime rate is because of the reputation our state has as opposed to some of the execution in our justice system.
Yep.
And I've long worried that if people actually knew how lenient some judges are on bad Part 1 crimes here, they might be more inclined to do more of it. And I don't like that any more than you do, but that's why I feel compelled to make sure that people are educated when they actually go to the voter box.
Yeah.
Just because they're in the incumbent doesn't mean that they're doing a really good job.
Right.
And I do think people feel bad when they see it on the ballot. We're like, well, I better vote for one. I'm just going to vote for the incumbent. And my hope is that, other big cities have significant judicial watch groups where people have time to go to court and listen to all the decisions and all that. We obviously don't have that. So
but maybe this will be the catalyst that gets some community members, especially those retired cops out there who know the system. Hey, if you've got time and you want to get involved, we would love your help to sit in on these court cases, here and there. Give us feedback, and then we can translate it into this, which we're hoping. In my mind, we're gonna start this out with a quarterly, but we could get down to monthly and just try to get this information out as frequently as possible and as relevant, right? I don't want to inundate you guys if it's not new information. So that's the plan. Yeah. I think we should touch on backgrounds real quick. If you guys are new to this channel and you don't know us, my name's Seth Horst. I was a cop for 14 years in another state, but Eric has been a cop in this state for a long time. Kootenai County Sheriff's Department. 10 years?
Yeah, I had that in here. Say, okay, why am I a guy that's going to talk to you about
You are an expert. You have testified as an expert witness many times here, right?
I've testified many, many times. A lot of people will say there's a reason for that. I actually write a pretty decent police report, okay, but I still testify a lot. I was kind of known. I pushed the envelope a little bit when it came to articulation of reasonable suspicion. I've testified in some big cases. I've testified in some unique cases and kind of familiar with the process. And talking to cops from other states, Idaho's different. Idaho, the way that our court process, you testify a lot here. For those looking to lateral, you've heard me say it before, but you're going to testify here. So I've watched so many cases, and I have issue with the number one contributing factor to whether or not a case is appropriately adjudicated with any sort of standard is the judge that presides. There's not the same standard. And I think you're going to end up with no two cops will handle the same situation exactly the same, but Idaho's unique, man. There's not much of a standard, and it's completely up to interpretation. So you end up with these completely out of left field rulings that don't align with even national case law. And you brought that up. You brought up like a Judicial Watch. We're in a unique day and age, man, where social media, we can kind of hold feet to the fire. Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office, I'd recommend following them. They'll issue sentencing and decisions that were made, and then the judge that was involved in it.
They're on social media?
Yep, they're on social media. That's a good one. North Idaho News does a good job of following up with that because the prosecutor's page doesn't allow for comments, so people can kind of have a back and forth on North Idaho News. I think there's a gap in there because that's more about sentencing, especially with like sex crimes, because everybody can get behind that. But I think there's a gap of information in there where we're not talking about judges' interpretations of like proactive policing methods. That's really important to recognize that too. If a judge is coming in and they're extremely left and they're going down that path that we've seen other states, and they're making ridiculous decisions about officers' ability to detain and conduct an investigation based on reasonable articulable suspicion, that can have a significant impact on our local area.
Yeah.
Which is important to some people.
Right.
Maybe not to people that don't live here. But we'll get into that.
Right.
So I wanted to break that down. So yeah, I've been a local cop out here for about 12 years. I was 5 years at Kootenai County, 7 years at Coeur d'Alene PD. When I left, I was running our opiate task force. I was a patrol sergeant. I testified a lot as a patrol sergeant because I was a road dog. I liked being on the street. I liked traffic stops and firmly believe that proactive policing is how we keep our crime rate low. It's hard to commit crime when you're looking over your shoulder all the time. So I had some people that were not fans of me at all in the public defender's office that would actively look for my cases because I was a pretty proactive cop. So I got pretty familiar with our justice system here. And again, I'm super passionate about it. I still believe in the boys and girls in blue and green, and think they play such a huge role that as citizens, we owe it to them and ourselves to be educated if you're going to put your checkbox next to a judge's name or something else that's coming out that could affect law enforcement's ability to do their job.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think first good way to break this down is we have 9 magistrate judges in Kootenai County, and they are initially appointed by the district judges bench. So that's like a step up. I think there's 81, maybe 87 district judges in the state. They initially appoint them to an 18-year term, and then they're elected after 4 years. When I say it's hard to find information, I cannot find anywhere in Google what judges are going to be up for reelection in May of 2026.
Why? I don't understand. You can find information about everybody else that's getting elected.
Yeah, I'm waiting text messages back to see which ones are running again in May of 2026. I think part of it is because they have that 18-month window. It's almost like a probationary period. So it's hard to find that stuff. So as elections come up, we are going to get better at breaking down each judge's individual decisions. And being still really well connected within the law enforcement community. And again, all of this is public knowledge. You can go out there and find it on iCourts and look at decisions and stuff. You kind of hear the same names that keep popping up, and I think our population should know about it.
Yeah. You said a couple left recently that were, in your opinion, not good.
Christensen was terrible.
Okay. And Eric and I talked about this earlier about using specific names. There may be times we don't, but in this case, you're good with it.
I don't feel bad about that at all. He had some atrocious decisions there towards the tail end. I don't know if he just...
Did he retire?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's gone. He got replaced, but he was bad, especially there towards the tail end. And I don't know why it ended up going that way. And there seems to be a running theme where prosecutors and cops will say that they were really good for a while. I don't know what happened. And whether it's apathy or you're just distant from it. I've got some deep-rooted issues with our justice system anyways, just be not necessarily here locally, but just in general. I think I take it personally that they wanted to go after law enforcement's immunity.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a huge deal.
Seth responds to a call for service that turns, it's a violent domestic situation. You respond, you make a instantaneous reaction on circumstances that are tense and rapidly evolving, and they want to try to remove your immunity because we required you to go there. But we've never talked about removing judges' immunity. where they release a violent offender back out onto the street and now there's zero accountability for them.
And they have plenty of time to make their decision, right?
Exactly.
Way different.
It's not tense. It's not rapidly evolving, but we've never discussed removing that immunity.
Yeah.
And that's because the people that would argue for that are attorneys, and judges are attorneys.
Yeah.
By and large, as a profession, I've got my own opinions on attorneys anyways, but I'm not going to go down that route. I've never been able to understand how you can apply a completely different logic pattern to individual circumstances as opposed to the same logic pattern that your life has taught you to utilize. It drives me crazy. Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole, dude.
All right, so Christensen's out.
Yeah, Christensen's out. He's gone.
Him.
There was another one, Haynes, that was really, really rough towards the tail end, and he was a former prosecutor too. Worked some really, really big cases, so I don't know why he went off the rails there at the end, but yeah, it's different here, and cops will tell you from other places, and please feel free to chime in. And anybody wants to correct me on anything, man, add commentary. We want this to be a town hall type of setting when we come to the Judicial Watch, because it's our courts, and that plays such a huge role in the relative safety of our community and the decisions that are made, and it's undervalued. I think people need to know, and I think for a lot of cities, when they realized they needed it, it was already too late.
Yep.
So why not get out in front of it? People that talk to us always express an interest in taking an active role in our community, so this is what we're trying to do. And like I told my chief when I left, my First Amendment rights are no longer suppressed. So, and it wasn't because
it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
But as a cop, they really are, and you have such a unique perspective.
We were talking about that earlier too.
Yes.
You know, when I was a cop, like you may have had a Facebook, but it wasn't your real name, and you know, it's always the first name, middle name. Everybody does that, and you can't post anything remotely relevant to any political thing at all, because you may end up facing getting fired, or down the road getting fired retroactively.
Right.
Who knows? But it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks, and we have pretty good opinions on things.
Yes.
So you'd think the public would want to know.
Yes, because we've walked into houses where kids have shitty diapers on for 3 days because their drug addicted parents don't take care of them, right? We've seen that perspective, that part of life where the truly innocent are being affected by, non-violent crimes, but serious drug addiction, stuff like that. I think those opinions should resonate a little bit. Or we've listened to the jailhouse calls or read the conversations where they are judge shopping or public defender shopping. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how you know there's not a standard. And unfortunately, there's a system in place right now where even if you get a good sentencing, which if you look up some of these judges, you can see that's getting a good sentence. By good sentence, I mean one that actually holds them accountable, is difficult in and of itself. Then they have a method for after that to go judge shop the one they really want. It's
surprising to me that there's so much gray area. Even as a cop, there's some gray area, but technically there shouldn't be. You're a instrument of the law, right? You're not necessarily out there interpreting things. I mean, you do a little bit, but I would think a judge, it would be very black and white.
Yes.
But it's not.
It's not at all. And especially in this state, there's so much discretion that judges can use, and that's why you end up with such this wide swath of decisions based on very similar crimes or circumstances. That's why I was a huge proponent and really pushed hard from my limited position for the introduction of fentanyl trafficking. For the longest time, for those that don't know, drug trafficking in Idaho is probably our harshest drug-related crime. It imposes minimum mandatory sentencing based on weight, based on the knowledge that this weight generally indicates this is well beyond personal use and your intent is to traffic narcotics or distribute narcotics. So it's minimum mandatory sentencing, which I like, because what does that remove? Judge's discretion.
Yeah.
So then it's, all right, you're going to move pounds. You can do 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is based on that. For years, since fentanyl's been out, we didn't have that for fentanyl. So the most dangerous substance our society has ever known that's being used illicitly for, illicit purposes, we didn't have our harshest crime code.
That's insane.
It took a lot. So it didn't pass the first year down south, which we've talked about that too. All right, this is where I'm going to get down and dirty a little bit. It's not ideal. Our justice system here is not ideal. We're in the Ninth Circuit. I mean, Ninth Circuit.
That includes states such as
California, Oregon, Washington. So we're already up against it when it goes up.
That should scare the shit out of people.
Right. But when you see some of the decisions by the Idaho Supreme Court, they're bad. And when you hear about some of them from our own magistrate or district judges, you're like, how does that even jive with Idaho? Right? Because we tend to think that it's a lot more restrictive, but we have to be able to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'll go back a little bit, go back to fentanyl trafficking. That included drug-induced homicide, which can be 25 to life. I'm a big fan of that. If you're knowingly dealing fentanyl, you know that it has a potential legal ramification. And you can go to prison for the rest of your life. I want people not even afraid. I want people not only afraid to deal in Idaho, but afraid to deal to people from Idaho.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, if you distribute fentanyl, knowing that it's deadly, someone dies from that, an overdose from that. Now you're talking about drug-induced homicide. Yeah, okay. Which is a state statute. There's already a federal statute out there that you can work with, but it's all like, task force stuff. Let those boys go eat. And they're killing it out there right now. I mean, they're doing a really, really good job in trying to keep it out of our local area. It's tough because Spokane's right there. But when you start breaking down some of those judges' decisions, man, it's not just about those cases and sentencing. When I look at other ones where we get a large quantity, we get deliveries. That's where it's weird. Trafficking is one thing, minimum mandatory, but delivery of a controlled substance, like controlled buys or something like that, or I get probable cause for the delivery, but not the trafficking, those aren't minimum mandatory sentences. Those are up to judges' interpretation, which is how you end up with rulings that are like... Ooh, got some examples?
Yes.
Can we give judges' names on these? Do you have them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we should.
Look, they're voted.
It's public information,
they're voted
right?
by you. Don't you want to? And this is, right off what they disseminated. So you had an individual with multiple prior in his criminal history to include a grand theft, DUI, drug possession, multiple probation violations, several controlled buys into this individual, and then a search warrant on the house unveiled a whole lot more with cash. So he had further drug-related charges.
So that is what we would call a shit bag.
Yes, okay. With multiple priors and all of that. He was, he was indicted for the delivery. Let me see what they wanted. Yeah, the delivery of methamphetamine has an imposed sentence on the long side with felony up to life in prison. And just the meth possession is a felony up to 7 years in prison. The sentencing for that went well against the prosecutor's decision to say, hey, he's a lifelong felon and he's going to continue to reoffend. He got 1 year. He got 1 year on parole after that year. So it was a 7-year sentence, but he was out after a year. So
it's completely it's obvious he's going to reoffend.
Yes.
You have a long history. And that's the ruling.
Yes, that he is going to be back on the street within a year. And again, that was after going through the burden of establishing all of the probable cause necessary to charge and get a conviction.
So there's no doubt.
Yes. So proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And they go in, and then all of a sudden, after all of that's said and done, you still stand before a judge, and the judge gets to impose their own sentencing. And this judge is notorious for really light sentences, not only in drug cases, but in child molestation, child pornography cases.
What's this judge's name?
Ross Pittman. So that's one right now. And there's been, I pulled up some, I'm hoping that through North Idaho News, the prosecutor's office being vocal about this. I've seen some sentencing lately where he's gone more in the direction of what the prosecutors are recommending. But I think those are important for people to recognize.
Pittman, people.
Yes.
Write him a letter.
Be aware of that.
That's how you want him to rule. He works for our community. Especially
those of you that are moving here from prosecutors in that case had asked for a 20-year sentence with parole after 7. He got 7 years total with parole after 1.
Wow.
So, and they're taking into account all of the previous.
I'm sure he won't violate his parole.
Absolutely. He's reformed. He's going to be reformed after his year back on the street after we got him. You slap on the wrist, it still hurts.
Oh my goodness.
It still hurts. But it gets pretty wild when we break down. I'm going to bring up something else. The Clark decision. For those that are moving to the state of Idaho, I was a cop when this happened. In the state of Idaho, officers can no longer arrest somebody for a misdemeanor that did not occur in their presence.
You told me about this earlier. It pissed me off so bad.
You can't arrest on a DUI if it didn't occur in your presence. If we pull up to a DUI crash and that individual's out of their car, are they in commission of that act?
This being a former trooper, this is near and dear to my heart. I have arrested many, many people on a misdemeanor not committed in my presence because there was an exemption for that. And domestic violence, correct?
Yes.
No,
so that's why I pulled this up. I wanted to get my dates correct.
Okay.
So let me explain the circumstances behind this Clark decision. Clark was originally it was a battery reported at Honeysuckle Beach in the middle of summer. A deputy goes out there, established probable cause that this individual battered somebody else, arrested that individual, and then finds methamphetamine search incident to arrest. One of the warrantless exceptions, no beef. Goes into court. A public defender out here, who I'm not going to name in this, but I'm going to bring him up several times. A public defender out here went back and found in the Idaho Constitution from let me pull it up. So I want to get my dates. From 1889, that it was unconstitutional for officers to arrest for misdemeanors that did not occur in their presence. In Idaho, they made it law in 1979 that you could arrest for the 7 deadly sins, so for misdemeanors that did not occur in your presence, which were battery, assault, domestic battery, domestic assault, DUI, and then there was another funky one where it was like a crime committed on a plane, and then there was something traffic related. I don't remember what it was, but they made that. I used to be an FTO, but now that's data dump now. I just sell houses.
7 deadly sins.
But those crimes you could arrest, and that was a law that was passed in 1979. Well, in this random-ass ruling, he was able to convince these judges that there was enough confusion that they sent it up for the Idaho Supreme Court's decision. They said it's unconstitutional. So what does that mean for us? That means if I go to a domestic violence incident as a cop and a husband has battered his wife and I have probable cause and establish that, I can't take him to jail. It leaves our officers in a very unenviable position of trying to either separate the two, which I can't physically do.
Can't guarantee anything, right?
It's going to be Veronica's law. I mean, we can all see the writing on the wall.
100%.
Or you literally ask the victim to initiate a citizen's arrest of their spouse.
That's insane. Which, would they ever do that?
No. Can you imagine? You're further victimizing
in front of them, right?
The victim. And what did we get out of this? And why isn't this been... This is years now. This is going on... Gosh, I want to say that decision was 4 years ago. And we still haven't addressed it with the Idaho Supreme Court.
That pisses me off so bad. As a trooper, I have a DUI crash, right? Now it's not committed in my presence, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes that asshole, the only way to keep him from driving again that night is to put him in jail. Because they won't let him out until he sobers up.
Exactly.
And I know that. That is how you fix the problem.
We talked about liability involved in law enforcement.
That's a huge liability.
Oh, well,
because dumbass is going to go drive again.
What happens when he calls his spouse? Let's say you combine the two. They have a challenging relationship. He calls his spouse. She comes to pick him up. He says, slide over, I'm driving. He wrecks another car.
Yep.
And then he kills somebody.
Who's going to get the heat for that?
The people that are making these decisions down there, I hope it's not your family member.
Yeah.
Right? But how do we not foresee this? And this is all because we were able to get some judge to go, oh, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. We've been doing it since 1979. It's been unconstitutional this entire time. Totally makes sense. When probable cause is already established, if I establish probable cause that you committed battery on Honeysuckle Beach, you're getting issued a misdemeanor citation and you need to report to court the same way.
Yeah.
The argument is over the initial custody. And this was in the Idaho Constitution in 1889, where if you frickin' rode your horse on the wrong side of the road, it was probably a damn misdemeanor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally different animal than it is now. But I want people to know about that because Idaho's not perfect. And I think we are apt to manipulation because judges have a ton of authority. And in a lot of ways, our court system still thinks it's the same community it was 40 or 50 years ago. And it's not.
Yep.
That's why. And there's no overseeing magistrate judge here, which is wild. Other states, you've got like a senior judge that basically interprets current case law, and then they'll tell the court system, hey guys, this is how we're going to interpret this moving forward. Mm-hmm. And then they watch the other judge's decision and they'll hold them to that. Here, nope, wing it. I'll give you one from Christensen because, again, I don't care. We had an officer walk up to a vehicle. We have a long-standing problem citizen that is a known drug user. And he walks up to the car. They ask him to get out. As the officer's looking through the window, he sees what he immediately recognizes to be a Mexi 30 or a counterfeit fentanyl pill. They're very unique. They're blue in color. They have one line on the side, a 30 above it, and a big M with a square around it on the other side. Pretty easy to identify that as a Mexi 30 pill.
You know that.
Oh, dude. So he's there with another officer that has a trainee. He looks at it and he goes, Oh, yeah. Said something like, all right, yeah, I got a Mexi. And he says, hey, come on over here, bring your trainee. Like using it as an education tool to show this new officer, hey, this is a fentanyl pill. They search the car based on the establishment of plain view, Carroll doctrine, probable cause, which is what percentage? 51%. More likely than not that there's drugs in this car. Mm-hmm. Pulls it out, it's confirmed as being fentanyl. He takes it and the guy goes to jail. That judge, Christensen, looked at that and said he could not have established that there was probable cause in this case. He couldn't have known by viewing this fentanyl pill that he's arrested for hundreds of times, dozens, if not hundreds of times, that this was fentanyl, looking at it through the window. Meanwhile, it gets sent to the lab. Comes back as fentanyl. Yes. So random one-off. I mean, that's one of those decisions we get as cops where I tell my guys on the street, don't change anything that you're doing. This is a one-off decision. This is not like linchpin case law. So when we get those are the ones I'm talking about where it's not just about sentencing. You have to pay attention to the rulings that are going on that'll keep our officers not only safe, but from doing their job and are keeping our community the way that it is.
Yeah. Can we touch on the public defender? Because you told me how that works. This is the mind-blowing thing that I was telling you guys about. You told me how that works here, and I was like, no fucking way.
All right, so...
Prepare to get pissed off.
Yeah, well, and just a heads up. So I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a litigator. I'm not an attorney, nothing like that. Most of my experience just comes from me being a state's witness in cases. This public defender, I've testified as a witness in several cases where he was the public defender. What I find interesting about Kootenai County is the prosecutor, Stan Mortensen, is an elected position. Stan was a former Kootenai County deputy. He is the current prosecutor. That is an elected position by the people. The public defender's office doesn't have that.
How is Stan?
Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. I can get into that a little bit too. Everything in Kootenai County gets political. We've talked about this before where you almost have to align yourselves, which I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of having to align to a particular party or affiliation. But I digress. So a public defender, you don't have to do that. Doesn't have to be elected. You don't have to talk about your record or merit or anything like that.
Who hires the public defender?
Oh, gosh, now I think it's the state. Okay. But I think they apply through anywhere else. I mean, it used to be Ann Taylor. She was doing the Kohlberger case for a while, but now this guy is. But what's wild to me, he's been in the public defender's office pretty much maybe a few years after I started being a cop. And you could tell pretty early he was a zealot. Like, he's a true believer. He believes that all cops are bad and that they lie inherently. And he goes after credibility and tries to Brady list people. I mean, it's been fascinating with him in the middle of a courtroom. I've watched him be reprimanded by several judges on multiple occasions. And now he's running the office here. And he doesn't live here.
Where does he live, Eric?
Washington.
What?
So my question is, and he oversaw the Clark case. Like, that was his case, which in the public defender's office, that's a huge win. That you're able to go back and say it's unconstitutional that we can't arrest on misdemeanors that occur outside of our presence without any thought about the ramifications of something like that.
Well, why would he care? He doesn't live here.
Exactly. You're not contributing to what makes this place. So it makes you wonder if his entire goal is to try to turn it into another place position quite a bit. And again, when you watch the conduct in the courtroom, and he's had some relative success because he's able to twist and manipulate and obfuscate and get these judges to buy off on random rulings. So other public defenders that come up that would make it about the merits of the case or the elements of the crime, are they doing that anymore? Nah, it's a charade.
It's all about the loophole.
It's a charade to see if you can come up or get somebody to buy off on the lack of reasonable suspicion, which I always love in court. You're going to tell me that I didn't have reasonable articulable suspicion. I had a hunch, but the case is literally in court because I was right. And you're going to tell me I didn't have any suspicion. Always blew my mind. So that one.
How do you get a guy like that out? Who fires that guy?
I don't know the answer to that because there were several instances where we believe that would be likely based on conduct and a bunch of other things. But nope, promoted. And now the public defender's office is run by the state. The state decided that public defending wasn't getting enough quality, so they decided to fund that and do that themselves.
Great.
So it's a different animal, but it blows my mind that the main prosecutor, Stan, had to run for office and be elected. by the citizens.
That is so strange.
But you don't do that for the public defender's office. But in all fairness to our fellow citizens in Kootenai County, judges are pretty much the same thing. They get appointed by the district judges for 18 months, and if they're the incumbent, they pretty much stay. I don't remember the last time an incumbent was voted out. And I couldn't find any information indicated either. Because our citizens tend to vote the incumbents.
Yes, like I did, right? I don't know. Things are good.
I hope you don't now.
And I'm hoping as we get, when's the next election?
It's May of 2026.
Okay.
I will have all of that and make sure that we do something. And it's re-educated me, man. I was the same way. I don't know what's on the ballot.
Right.
I go there to vote for president, and all of a sudden you're throwing all these things. And you're like, judges? Oh, they must be doing okay, blah, blah, blah. And that's me in my position. So
we will have, as this progresses and we keep doing these regularly, we're going to have more and more information about these judges. So when it comes time for the ballot next year, it'll be a no-brainer. You won't have to question.
Yes.
You'll know.
And please, when you get on there, if you find out it's on the ballot, I'm doing my best not to inject my opinion. It's hard because it's been framed through my profession. And
I like your opinion, but that's because I was a cop too, I guess.
Yeah. So, but really, our goal, guys, is just to give you as much information as we can. Go online. We've got 9 magistrate judges right now. The 2 to watch are the 2 that were just, one of them was when Christensen vacated, and then there was another judge that promoted or got appointed by Brad Little to be a district judge. Anyways, that opened up another space. So there are 2 new ones in there that are in their 18-month, I'm going to call it a probationary period, and that's Catherine Murdoch and Eileen McGovern. So that's a really good time because they're not elected by us yet, right? Watch their decisions in the next 18 months. Or just listen to us, and I'll try to give you as many of those that I can.
Yeah.
Not just opinions of cops, but those are important, especially if they're going to go one-off and they go on a mission. And they're on a crusade. That's where this public defender is so dangerous. Man, he's a crusader. He is anti-cop, completely anti-cop.
Wow.
And that dude is running the public defender's office here. And he's got judges that he's able to convince of these things. So I do think that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I want people to be aware of it. As other judges come up, I just think it's worth going out there and doing your research. North Idaho News has been pretty good about posting rulings, but they are getting more sentencing than anything else. And the Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office has a Facebook page where they're delving into some of that. So
we intend to bring you the opinions of the men and women on the ground too, which obviously we'll have to have some discretion about the information where it comes from specifically, but just know that we will do our best to get honest and real information out as unbiased as we can. Obviously, we lean more conservative and we're cops, so there's that.
A lot of this is a matter of public record, right? Like you can go out and find this stuff. You know, iCourts is available and you can search it. But like I said, I tried to find out who's actually running in May of 2026 and I couldn't. So kc.gov, that website, that should be available, guys. That should be available to our citizens so they know what judges are coming up so that they can make an informed decision. Because I think right now, when you've got judges in such a wide variety of decisions with the same factual circumstances coming to 2 completely different conclusions, they are not afraid of your vote.
Yep.
And maybe they shouldn't be afraid of it, but they don't respect it because they don't think they have to worry about it, and they should.
Yeah.
They absolutely should.
Nothing wrong with being held accountable.
Yes, and at least trying to set some standards. So I like that the prosecutor's office has a Facebook page. I like that it gets put out to North Idaho News. I want that information out there so people can make an informed decision. An informed population is a strong population. You have to have the facts, though. So when I got out of law enforcement in April of this year, I talked to a lot of the guys and said I had an intention of doing this. Maybe that's why I got some nerves about it, because I think it can be really, really important. I think a good growing population needs to have some unbiased, unvetted information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is the goal. And I would encourage you, please leave comments on what you would like to see to improve it. It's hard for me to pull stats. It's not available on like judges' decisions, but you can go on there and find stuff just like this. Or let's see, we had a rape case with the prosecution where a girl said no several times, and this is an adult and underage girl. They recommended a 20-year prison sentence with eligibility parole after 8. Let's see. Instead, he got 5 years of supervised probation and a 20-year no-contact order. So prosecutor went after a 20-year prison sentence with eligibility after 8, and he got probation. That was...
that is insane.
Judge Barbara Duggan and that was from July of this year.
Very recent.
Yes. Important just to keep yourself
Judge
informed.
Duggan.
If you're passionate about that sort of thing, the information's out there, and I just want you to be informed. But like I said, I'm a big fan of taking feedback. So if there's things that you want to hear about or know about, or you have questions about the Clark decisions or other decisions that have come up, bring them up. This is our state. I still think it's the best state in the country, but it's not without flaws and faults. And the best way to change this state is to have an uninformed population.
Yep.
And it's going to be our mission to make sure that doesn't happen.
Boom. Well said, brother. So thank you guys. Like I said, we will at least make this a quarterly thing, if not monthly. We will keep revisiting that. You'll see these pop up on our YouTube channel. This is our passion. We are very passionate about the community, but we pay the bills through real estate. So we specialize in helping conservative families find their freedom in North Idaho. So if you guys are thinking about making that move here, or you live here and you need help selling your home, all of those things, we can do it all. And we're pretty damn good at it.
All right, one more. Just
throw it out there, dude.
Let's go.
I'm fired up now.
Lewd conduct with a minor under 16.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. And let's see. She was 14. All right.
Okay, that's
the
pretty...
prosecutor's office recommended a life in prison sentence with parole eligibility after 25. What do you think he got?
10?
25-year prison sentence. Parole eligibility after 5 years.
5 years parole.
5 years.
What do you think? What do you think he's going to do after he gets out in 5 years?
I'm sure it'll be reformed, bro.
100%
Perfect system. Judge Pittman.
Pittman again.
So,
okay.
Just want you to have the facts.
Pittman's on my radar now.
Yeah, well, it's just important to look, and maybe things, we don't have all the circumstances of any one of these. Look, I don't sit here in the courtroom. I don't have all these circumstances,
sure.
Right? But the prosecutor in this case, that is as real a dude as you can get. That's seen a lot and done a lot.
So you would trust his recommendation?
100%. And I know that this prosecutor's run for judge before, but whatever reason didn't get nominated politics-wise. But that can be a later topic at a different time.
I feel like Pittman needs to get some letters.
Yes, or at least have some attention in the ballot box. You have to be held accountable. And at the end of the day, I think the easiest fix is some standardization, whether they have a magistrate oversight judge, a judge that makes these interpretations when a case law comes out. Here's how we're going to recognize this moving forward. But we don't do that. It is completely independent, and it's the Wild West.
Dang, dude.
So I wish it was more positive.
Yeah.
But I want you guys to have the information. Like I said, it's not perfect. We want to keep this place. Then we have a responsibility to stay informed.
Boom. Well, thank you for your efforts, Eric.
Yeah. Cheers.
We will catch you guys at the next Judicial Watch Group.